So to continue our thoughts on about how to cheapen up a house without you knowing about it, uh, let's talk about things like engineered lumber.
Right. So there's a number of builders that we compete against. I mean, it's amazing because I've seen some of these over $1 million homes, and you would innately believe that if the house is over $1 million,
It's better.
they're using the best materials that money can buy, and oftentimes they're not using any different materials than the entry level builder is using. In fact, I would say sometimes entry level builders using nicer materials, and what a shame. But if you take a 2x12, a standard dimensional 2x12, you are allowed in certain spacing to put that as a second floor, substrate. So, and that's fine. I mean, it may pass code, but it can have as much of, more than a quarter. I mean, it's what, an inch and an eighth of deflection, or it's a pretty big number.
To get past the code with deflection is one thing. To build a solid house is another.
That's right. But the code is like over an inch of deflection. So you can stand in the middle of a game room floor upstairs.
We're just like a trampoline.
And it just looks like a trampoline and technically pass. And you and I have gone to Boise Cascade to watch them make their engineered lumber, and we watched them put basically a hydraulic pin right in the middle of a 2x12, and we watched it shatter at 7,500 psi. And we watched the eye joist. It's 11 3/4 inch eye joist. That's the direct competition for that board. Shatter at 17,500 psi. So it considerably stronger, considerably more stable.
And that is typically not a thing that is in their spec sheet.
No, they're never going to know.
Their spec sheet says we will use engineered lumber for your flooring. It doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't.
Another thing that that you're talking about, we're in the middle of the tornado places in Oklahoma. There's a thing called a brace wall design, and we do this brace wall design, hurricane clips. One of our houses got hit by a tornado.
F3.
And
F3.
And it actually, because we did things with brace wall in a non-inspected area, because they don't expect this where we built this house, the house kept its roof. And it wasn't a total loss. It was a big loss. We had a lot of work to do, but it didn't flatten it.
The only thing that we can surmise is that combination of the engineered lumber that we're using, the combination of the strapping, the hurricane clips, and using the zip system and some of the other things, and gluing our flooring down. I mean, the engineer that looked at it said the fact that you're gluing your flooring down helped a lot too, because it helped hold the house rigid. There were some things that I didn't understand that we learned through that process that guy, the engineer, was able to show us, but he basically was able to tell us why our house stood up, and it was what we thought. And I think that a tornado is an extreme situation, and we're never going to say our houses are tornado proof. I think that would be irresponsible to say that. But what I can say is we're spending extra money in places, not necessarily to make them tornado proof, but to make them hold up better over time. Right. Because the same things that would make a house not hold up to a tornado would also make a house warp, would make a floor deflect, would make crown molding start to look like it's waving like a wave. I mean, all those things factor into all of that.
So we could keep on going because there's a ton of different ways
I can give you a list of things that we do that I know a lot of other builders don't use. We use James Hardie concrete siding and fascia materials, which are going to stand up a lot better. We're using Lifetime paints. We're using the zip system where you're taping in every single seam. We're using Advantech flooring systems and we're gluing it down. We are using, just like we talked about the foundation, we're adding Buckeye fiber to all our flatwork driveways, porches, which make them a lot stronger. We're doing expansion joints. We're making sure the concrete is a full 3,500 psi. We're not adding water to it. We're not crowning the center of a driveway
to where your center of your
driveway is 2 inches thick. I have seen it all. I've seen all the builders, not all the builders, a lot of the builders we compete against do at least some of those things to save a buck. And if people, even little things like having our gutters not dump in the middle of a flower bed, but we take the extra time to run them under the sidewalk and out with a pop-up drain is really healthy for your plant.
Takes a little planning.
But it takes a little planning, takes a little bit of money, about $200 a house. But all of those things are integrity. They're making, and it's not just the integrity of your house, it's the integrity of our company that we want to improve, and we want to make your house better each and every year. And there's no doubt that our houses today are better than ones yesterday and the ones before that, because we keep trying to improve and we don't sit. And I just think that there's so many builders that aren't doing those things because it costs money. We'd rather educate the value so you say, yes, I want that, versus just slide something else across.
So, one thing that to kind of wrap this little segment up is, are all builders created equal? No, they're not. And it's important that you know what's happening in the marketplace, where builders are cutting costs to make more money and give you a lesser product. And that's one thing Epic's just not going to do.